Hello. Welcome back, everybody. Are you all finished with the challenge, delegates? Not yet?
Come on, Molly, give them a little bit more time. It's been a long day.
Right, Annie. Well, while all of you can work on the challenge later tonight, right now we have a super great activity brought to you by one of our partners, Cruse-Lorenzetti.
They will not only be leading you in a wine tasting, but also teaching you about the vineyard and Bordeaux region. We would like to welcome Rafael Amri, brand ambassador for Cruse-Lorenzetti at EHL Alliance and a final year student here at EHL.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm delighted to be in front of you today to introduce and welcome Mr. Augustin Lacaille. So he's a seasoned wine industry expert with over 20 years of experience, a graduate of ESCE Paris and Kedge Business School Executive Wine MBA. He has worked across renowned wineries from Chile to Bordeaux. His journey includes key roles at Chateau La Rose Trintodon, Chateau Guiraud, and since 2014, he has led sales and marketing at Vignobles Cruse-Lorenzetti. Before he introduces the chateau and guides us through an exceptional wine tasting, we would like to take advantage of the unique energy in this room, full of bright and international students from very diverse backgrounds. It's a huge opportunity for us to learn and gain insight from your different perspectives, experiences, and creative minds to shape together the future of our industry. With that in mind, as some of you may have already read, we have a challenge for you. Wine consumption is facing a challenge in demand, particularly among younger consumers. And this calls for innovative strategy that honor the Bordeaux wine's region heritage and distribution practices. Your team will be tasked with proposing one new approach to creatively engage younger generation with Bordeaux wine culture. In your response, you should include one of the three chateaux that we will be presenting today. Regarding the deliverable, you should upload a private or unlisted video on YouTube of maximum 3 minutes. Your team captain must submit and send the link to YHS@ehl.ch by Tuesday, 10 p.m. The phrasing of this challenge has been intentionally kept open-ended to allow you to explore and showcase your creativity. And of course, there is something exciting for you at the end. We have exclusive prize from Domaine Vignobles Cruse-Lorenzetti. This is your opportunity to think beyond the present and shape the future of how Bordeaux wine connect with younger generation. We really can't wait to see what idea you bring to the table. Now, let's turn to Mr. Lacaille to introduce us to the world of Vignobles Cruse-Lorenzetti. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Raphael. I'm very pleased and very delighted to be with all of you today. So today we will do a little road trip, or wine road trip in Bordeaux. So the challenge, you've heard about it. And we'll speak about Bordeaux, 3 different appellations, Margaux, Pauillac, and Saint-Estèphe. But before that, let's speak about the family, what gather all these 3 estates. Vignobles Cruse-Lorenzetti, 2 names, 2 family names. One is the family Cruse. Actually, they are originally from Denmark and came to Bordeaux 200 years ago, so very involved in the tradition of winemaking and wine growing in Bordeaux. And more recently, the family Lorenzetti. The family Lorenzetti, for some of you who are studying now at EHL, Jackie Lorenzetti did the gastronomic school of Lausanne in a few years ago, and he learned a lot from EHL, and he wanted to become a chef or work as a FMB, but his father was a house painter and decided to help his father to rent an apartment and say, hey, I like real estate. So he started with one small real estate agency, then a second one, a third one, a fourth one, and it became the largest real estate company in France called Foncia. He dedicated all his life, very entrepreneur, dedicated all his life to the real estate. And in 2007, good timing, at 60 years old, with his wife, originally from Bordeaux, decided to come to Bordeaux and invest in a winery. So he sold his business in 2007, good timing because a year later it was not the same story, 2007, and decided to invest in wine, but not only in wine, in rugby. Because his wife is also, the southwest of France is also very popular for rugby. Don't worry, I will speak about wine in a few seconds, but just to understand the profile of Jackie Lorenzetti and the way he's a very entrepreneur. So as he's an entrepreneur, he doesn't want to invest in something which is already on the top of the hill or beautiful and lightning. He wants to bring his touch. He wants to bring his energy, his savoir-faire, and that's why he acquired one of the Paris rugby team, which was down the hill in Division 2, brought some great players from all around the world, and now the team from Racing 92 is playing in the top teams in France and in Europe. But after that, after bringing all these great players, he wanted to have a great stadium. So he built its own stadium right in the heart of La Défense. Actually, we welcome the gala of YHS in this beautiful room. It's the largest concert room in Europe, roof covered. We welcome, of course, a few great stars like Taylor Swift, Paul McCartney, and very soon Lenny Kravitz. And we welcome the Olympics with the swimming pool. And of course, for some of you who likes to go to restaurants and or like the sommelier, we also had the opportunity in France to welcome in 2023 the competition, the worldwide competition of the best sommelier of the world. And it was taking place in Paris, and the final was taking place in our stadium. So it was great event. But now, so just to give you an idea how Mr. Lorenzetti is, he came to Bordeaux. So this map, I'm sure most of you who are in love with wine are pretty familiar with this map. Bordeaux is in the southwest of France, very close to the Atlantic Ocean. We don't see it very clearly here, but it's very important actually for the influence of the wine producing. And as you can see with all these colors, it's very complex. Of course, if somebody say, I don't like Bordeaux wines, sorry, but you have so many diversity, so many complexity. Of course, even within the same appellation, you have huge diversity. We'll speak about that in a few minutes. But there is something magical, which split in a way almost Bordeaux in two. We have this river, this estuary called the Gironde, which split Bordeaux in two, what we call the left bank, the western side, and the right bank, the eastern side. And of course, the terroir, the soil, is not exactly the same on the western side and on the eastern side, on the right bank and left bank. Today, we will focus on the left bank, okay? What is blue here, where I'm going to make a generality, which is very bad for wine, but where you have a majority of gravels, so mainly the stones, which is great for the King Grape Cabernet Sauvignon. Whereas on the right bank, it's majority of clay, and when you have majority of clay, the best grape is Merlot. But this is a little bit of generality. Just to give you a little idea, so Jackie Lorenzetti came in 2008, fell in love with his wife with Chateau Lillian-la-Douce. It will not be the topic today, but it was a great challenge also with a lot of restructuration on the vineyard to do, but very great estate from the 16th century. The year after, in 2009, he acquired Chateau Pédesclos, Grand Cru Classé, so classified growth in Pauillac. We'll speak about Pauillac in a few minutes. In 2013, with the family Cruse in Margaux. Margaux rings the bell, probably it's a beautiful appellation, very famous. And with Chateau d'Isson, and Chateau, more recently, Chateau Lafon-Rocher, another Grand Cru in Saint-Estèphe. So as you can see clearly on this picture already, 4 different estates, 4 different soil, 4 different environment, and 4 different terroirs, of course. So just to give you an idea, a brief idea, this is in a little bit more than 15 years, Jackie Lorenzetti now owns more or less 120 hectares in Saint-Estèphe, 53 hectares in Pauillac, and a little bit more than 60 in Margaux. All right? And you can see already the differences in terms of how the vineyard is spread out on this appellation. So the little wine road trip, we'll speak first about Chateau Pédesclos. Okay? We'll start with the first acquisition he made in Pauillac. So Pauillac is a magical appellation. You probably heard about Lafite Rothschild, Mouton Rothschild, Chateau Latour, these 3 chateaux are what we call first Grand Cru classé in the famous 1855 classification. What happened to, I will make, of course, I will try to make the story as short as possible, but feel free at the end to ask any question. But Napoleon asked, we had the Universal Exposition taking place in Paris, and Napoleon asked the brokers and the wine merchants of Bordeaux to make a list of the best wines in 1855. And at that time, the list was made mainly with the wine, only with the wine from the left bank, so from the Médoc up to the Sauternes, where we produce, of course, great sweet wines. But you only have 61 chateaux, so it's kind of a very limited club of the best wine at that time, and we hope still the case today. 61 red wines, but within the 61 you have a ranking, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so within the top first growth you only have 5, and 3 of them are, as I mentioned, are located in Pauillac: Lafite, Mouton Rothschild, and Château Latour. One is in Margaux, Château Margaux, and one is in Pessac-Léognan, Château Aubryon. You probably heard about these guys. Château Pédesclos, as you can see here, when the family Lorenzetti arrived, was a sleeping beauty. And the chateau was like that, very nice. It has been classified in 1855 as a 5th growth in Pauillac, but a lot of great 5th growths have done a fantastic job in the past years, and today are really outstanding wines. And you can see that the demand is increasing. The law of offer and demand, of course, is important. And you can see that some of the 5th growths today have the price of a 2nd growth because they've made a fantastic job. But we don't want to change the rules. So this is the way the chateau was when we arrived, sleeping beauty. But now, this is the way it is now. So of course, he did a lot of work because his priority was first to do a lot of work in the vineyard. So as you can see, and this is the magic of Bordeaux, pay attention to all these colors. 19 different colors, 19 different kind of soils. We did different pedological holes to identify what was the layers of soil we had in each plot. And of course, this mosaic of terroir, this puzzle of terroir, brings complexity, brings the fact that based on when it's mainly yellow, it's mainly gravel. So in that case, the best grape, as I mentioned earlier on, the best grape would be Cabernet Sauvignon. So today, as you can see, we have 4 grape varietals: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Petit Verdot, and Cabernet Franc. Each of them have their own specificities, singularities, and added value to the final blend. But one thing that was also interesting, when we arrived in 2009, 26 hectares. Today, 53. And we had the opportunity to buy these 2 big plots on the top, right almost at the border with Saint-Estèphe, where, in fact, it's just in between. Lafite is right here, and Mouton is right here. So very good location, and also great opportunity for us to increase the complexity of our blend. Well, this is just to show you where we are, because, of course, this river is very strategical. We will speak about that for all these chateaux, because they are all very close to this river. Most of the greatest chateaux in Bordeaux are along this river, because it avoids, normally I'm touching wood, it avoids the vineyard to be impacted by the frost, and we hear climate change and many things. Now we have every year more and more challenges to face with strong storms. And to be honest, having this river, we gain few degrees to avoid all these plots to be impacted by frost. If we have frost, it's really because it goes very far under zero, below zero. And also during what is very important, we want to make wine to make sure that these wines will be balanced and food-friendly wines to enjoy with food. So having this proximity with the river is a natural reverse air conditioning in a way, because you have good drop of temperature between days and night, especially during the harvest. Today, in front of you, you have 3 wines. All the 3 wines are from 2016 vintage. 16, if you ask any winemakers in Bordeaux, it's probably one of the vintage that people would sign up straight away to have it repeated every year. Because exactly during the harvest time, we had this beautiful, outstanding variation. A lot of sun during the day to help the berry to ripe, and at night, big drop of temperature, cool nights to maintain the freshness and the balance of the berries. So I'm not going to go too much into details, because We have a lot of things to see, but just to give you an idea, Jackie Lorenzetti, when you arrived, we had a lot of Merlot in the vineyard. Step by step, by analyzing all these plots, we have now identified that step by step, we are moving toward more and more Cabernet Sauvignon and Cabernet Franc in the vineyard, and at the end, in the blend. So, after doing all this work in the vineyard, he says, should I keep the existing winery and push the walls, or should I bring something new from scratch? Well, you have already a little bit a piece of idea with this picture. In fact, he asked one of the very famous architect, Jean-Michel Villemotte, to design a beautiful chateau with a lot of glasses, and actually transparency was the key word. In fact, I'm sure most of you have visited a lot of winery all around the world. Of course, to preserve and to vinify the wine, usually it's behind very thick walls to protect the wine against heat, against the light. But what the architect has done, he used the natural slope of the vineyard to make a big hole and build a huge winery by gravity. So the gravity, well, you can see a little bit on this picture, but of course, we'll be delighted to welcome you to see it in action and more real during the harvest or during the vinification. So we welcome the grapes here, double tanks. All the tanks are different in order to really adapt to gain in precision and to adapt to each plot. And of course, after underground, as you can see here, we have the barrel aging cellar, which is very important. And without using any pump over, we don't want to have any aggressivity. If you come to this winery, you can see it a little bit here, but again, with picture, it's difficult to show, but it's a little bit like James Bond winery. You have a lot of technology, but really to the benefit of wine, but also to the benefit to help the people, the women and men who are working in the winery, because it's you can gain a lot in precision, but also avoid any pump over, and with big elevator tanks, which is really unique in Bordeaux and in some part of the world. And of course, tradition aging with the big barrels, the barrels from Bordeaux with French oak, but also always questioning ourselves. This is something that Mr. Lorenzetti learned at YHS, is of course to be very demanding and always question himself to know what can we do to make the wine better every day. And in 2023, we have now these bigger format barrels to bring more freshness, because again, we are talking about climate change, etc. And it's true that every summer, let's say since 2000, we have had almost very warm summers every year. So it's very important for us to maintain freshness, and even if the wines are very well, beautifully ripe. And of course, one of the main things that we did also was to bring back life to the soil, and we are now certified organic since 22, but we have done it, this conversion, step by step, progressively. It's not marketing. It was a duty for us to do it properly. You know, it's raining more in Bordeaux than in London, so to conduct a vineyard organically, it's a big challenge. But for us, it's good for the people working at the estate, but also, of course, for the consumer. And at the end, you can see, you will see in front of you the label of Chateau Pédesclos, which was very modern. And since 2022, we have taken the inspiration of the old label and the new label to have a mix of tradition and modernity with this chateau here. Okay? Well, this we pass along, but he's the winemaker and he came from Lafite. Lafon Rocher, second estate in Saint-Estèphe, so completely different. You saw the James Bond winery first. Now you feel you are in Tuscany. It's beautiful. In fact, this chateau, as you can see, the vineyard in Saint-Estèphe, it's really in the top north of the Médoc, and it's more hilly. If some of you likes to run, there is a very famous marathon called the Médoc Marathon. So it's the longest marathon on the planet, not in miles because it's still 42K, but because people run and drink. So you're more delighted to welcome, and it's a very friendly run. But at the same time, when you arrive in Saint-Estèphe, you feel it. Usually it's at the middle, because you feel that it's climbing quite strongly. So Lafon Rocher and Saint-Estèphe is on the top of the hill. Beautiful. You have this beautiful line of trees, border of trees, which is a zone Natura 2000, which is a beautiful preserved zone to develop biodiversity. And all the singularity of Lafon Rocher is that all the vineyard is a single vineyard surrounding the estate. And back to the 1855 classification, Château Lafon-Rocher, so Petit Clos was the 5th growth, Château Lafon-Rocher is the 4th growth in Saint-Estèphe. This is the historical vineyard, and today it's still, everything is still around the castle, so we have kept the heart of the vineyard since the 19th century, and only 5 estates have been Grand Cru in Saint-Estèphe, so not a lot. Cos d'Estonel, Montrose, Calon-Ségur, Cos-Laborie, and Lafon-Rocher. So very limited estates, very top quality. So unique location, we spoke about that with the altitude and the great wind coming through the vineyard. But when I spoke about gravels, you can see here on this picture all the white stones. This is magical for the Cabernet Sauvignon because it takes the heat during the day and bring back to the plant at night to help the Cabernet, which is a late grape, to ripe beautifully. I love this color, but you will see that something which is unique also in our terroir, in our vineyard, we have clay, and blue clay, especially in the subsoil. Blue clay is what you can get at Petrus. You probably heard about this magical wine that you can find on the other side of the river in Pomerol, Petrus. The clay and the blue clay is kind of a sponge, which keeps the water, because something very important compared to any part of the world, in Bordeaux, it's forbidden to irrigate the vineyard. So we are just, the only water we can use is the water coming from the sky. So that's why very early, and today we'll try 2016 vintage, we had a lot of rain early in the season, which was very important. Of course, you could be crying, but in fact for us, we are thinking, yes, it can be more bottles at the end of the day, and also it can be fulfilling the soil of what the vines will need in few years. We are convinced that the vines need to stress and to fight to get through the very poor soil to get the nutrition in order to bring complexity. So that's why also we plant them very close to each other to create competition. And the clay, having some clay in the subsoil is very useful when we have high temperature during the summer, because like that the vines still have the roots and do not suffer from hydric stress. Well, we can speak about that later on. Yes, little anecdote, because of course, actually somebody from the EHL did a very interesting survey for a great champagne house a few years ago for the competition of the best sommelier of the world, and they were saying that 77% of the consumer are expecting an anecdote from the sommelier. This is the anecdote from Lafon-Rocher. From Lafon-Rocher, the previous owner, one summer, he had to rebuild the chateau because it burnt, and decided to, it was all gray, nice, but all gray. He decided to paint part in green, part in yellow, and part in red. So all the neighbors were, oh my God, something is happening over there. But thanks God, he picked the yellow, and now the chateau is like this. It seems like for everybody who knows a little bit about wine from Bordeaux and about Saint-Estèphe, it seems like Lafon-Rocher has been yellow like that for ages, and the label is yellow like this for ages, but only since vintage 2000. But it's beautiful. And of course, climate change, we spoke about that, starting organic farming, but also agroecology. I won't speak too much about it, but except if you have any questions. But the idea is to plant some bushes, some hedges, and some trees to bring back and develop the biodiversity in the vineyard. And because organic is one thing, but we want to go further. All right? So certified organic in 2024 for this vineyard. For vinification, we use stainless steel and concrete, also to bring complexity. Traditional aging, I go a little bit quickly to respect the timing too, but we like oak barrels, and we like French oak barrels too, but the idea is to find the right balance and not to have wine that are over-oaked. I hope in the wine that you will be tasting tonight, you won't feel too much the oak. Anyway, 2016, it's also a good timing to start drinking the wine. But again, in the same philosophy of bringing the dynamic and also adapting, because even if we've been making wine for centuries and centuries, every year is a new year, every year is a new challenge, and we are new, we are babies, and we have to adapt. That's the reason why we bring also, like we saw at Petit Clos, the bigger food or bigger barrels in order to bring freshness. 2022, as we acquired the winery in 2021, is our first vintage. So we are very happy because the wine is very good. The winemaker is saying that it's the luck of the beginners. Well, I think it's too humble, but it's also a great work. He's the winemaker, also owning all these estates. I mean, taking care of the Saint-Estèphe vineyards. And at last but not least, we'll finish in Margaux. You will see these 3 wines. So you see this map is the left bank, right? So we started with tonight, the first wine actually, is from Pauillac. Wine in the middle would be, so from the left would be from Pauillac. From the right, in the middle, would be from Saint-Estèphe. And at the end, on your right, would be from Margaux. Margaux is much more in the south. And in between, you have Saint-Julien, but no Saint-Julien yet in the portfolio. But Margaux is here, very close to Bordeaux. It's actually the closest appellation to Bordeaux after, of course, Pessac-Léognan. Now, I'm starting with the anecdote now. I'm not going to go through French history, because we will all fall asleep probably. But this is very important. This young lady, her name is Aliénor of Aquitaine. Her father was the Duke of Aquitaine. Aquitaine, if you don't know, Aquitaine is all the southwest of France. Huge territory, very strategic, because access to the Atlantic Ocean. So back in the 12th century, strategic to fight, okay, to have the boats and go to conquer and to have more land. So very strategical. Of course, unfortunately, her dad died. She was 15 years old, so she became the Duchess at 15 years old. Guess what? The King of France, Louis VII, a little bit boring guy, but wanted to meet this young lady. And guess what? They fell in love, they got married, and all the southwest of France became under the French crown. But she wanted to accompany the king into the different fights. And she followed him, but they had disagreement, political disagreement. And again, she had a very strong personality, and she asked once to divorce the King of France back in the 12th century. Of course, we were not using the word divorce, but she asked for an annulment of the wedding. So crazy. The King of France was so upset. Can you imagine? And this young lady fell in love again with another handsome man called Henry Plantagenet. They got married in Poitiers, not too far away from Bordeaux in the north. And the wine they had for this wedding was the wine coming from Château d'Isson, the wine that you will have on your right-hand side. The wedding was taking place on May 18th of 1152. It means that where we are making wine now, still, have been making wine on the same piece of land for almost 900 years, which is, I think, quite crazy. But this new man became the King of England. So the King of France was even more upset. Can you imagine? But the King of England, he became the King of England 2 years after the wedding. So it's true that, and it has been a very important fact for Bordeaux, because Bordeaux became British for 300 years thanks to this wedding. But after, they had many fights also with the King of England, but this is another story. But what is crazy, and it is still written on the top of the door of the chateau in Latin, Regum mensis arisque deorum, and I know that you are all fluent in Latin, but I will translate it for some. It means because you know French are very humble, for the table of the kings and altar of the gods. And this motto is very strong, yeah, very powerful, but at the same time, it's written on the label of all our wines since then. Okay, so it's quite crazy. You remember the first chateau I showed you, the James Bond winery, Chateau Pédesclos. Now, look at Chateau d'Isson. This has been rebuilt after the British burnt it, but it has been rebuilt in 1626. Very soon, we'll be celebrating the 400 years anniversary of the reconstruction of this chateau. It's probably one of the oldest ones. So in Margaux, with the moat, now you go back to deliver the princess. You go back to the Middle Age, and this is still the same story. But guess what? Another very important lady came to this adventure of Château d'Isson, because the guy who bought this chateau was the Baron d'Esnault in 1626. He rebuilt it, He wanted to have a nice house for hunting, nice house, but he died. And the widow of the Baron d'Esnault was alone back in the 17th century to handle the vineyard. As soon as she had finished to buy a small plot from the church, from the priest, to have a single vineyard, she had a very clever idea. She built what we call in French a clos. You see the line, the white line, is very big stone wall, 1644. This is the oldest clos in the Médoc. It's very important. And because she had a very clever idea, because on the other side of the wall, it's vineyard of Chateau Palmer. Some of you who likes wine and likes Bordeaux wine, you probably heard about them. And on the other side of the clos, it's the vineyard of Chateau Margaux, another great estate. Chateau d'Isson is a third growth in 1855. As you can see, it's a beautiful piece of land. We spoke about the family already. But when the family Lorenzetti joined this adventure in 2013 with the Cruse bought it, Chateau d'Isson, in 1945, right after World War II. There were only 3 hectares of vines planted. They restructured everything, rebuilt the cellar and everything. Now, in 2020, we didn't want to extend the vineyard. I love this map. Also, you might have noticed that I love maps, but these colors represent what is Bordeaux. This is Margaux, 1,500 hectares. It's huge. So, of course, if you read the press and they will tell you, okay, Margaux, different wines, different profile, very heterogeneous quality. Yes, because look at all these colors. It's different kind of soil. Chateau d'Isson, we are on the terrace number 4 here, on the very thin purple line, okay? So we didn't want to extend the vineyard because we were here and it was our strength. So this is the chateau. You see the chateau with the moat is here. Again, the influence of the river, always very important. And this is where we produce our top wine, okay, within the clos. The clos means, again, the big stone wall. And in 2020, we had one opportunity to buy 7 additional hectares. Great, because just across the wall, and this, if you have been to Bordeaux, you will probably recognize, this is Chateau Margaux here. So it means that it creates for us a direct link to Chateau Margaux, okay, which is great estate. And also we had 2 grape varietals. The one you will be tasting tonight, 16, is majority of Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. But thanks to that, this plot is Petit Verdot planted in 1948. Here, Cabernet Franc planted in 58. And here, Malbec. Perhaps there are some people from Argentina here in the room. In Bordeaux, we can use 6 grapes are authorized for reds. We use already 5 out of the 6. The only one that we are not using at Chateau d'Isson is Carmenère. I don't know if you have some Chilean in the rooms too, but it's also great grape varietals, but mainly produced now in Chile. But Malbec, we are convinced that it can be great to bring it back to Bordeaux. It was huge in Bordeaux before, disappeared, and now with climate change again might be very interesting. Okay, just to give you an idea, we all speak about organic, agroecology, etc. But what is something, sometimes we don't think about communication enough because we are concentrated in making wine, the best wine possible for the consumer. But since the 18th century, we have respected exactly the vineyard, keeping on 50 hectares of what we call biodiversity, polyculture, in order to bring balance to the vineyard. This is smaller tanks, just to give you an idea that we are, of course, respecting each plot and each grape varietals, the aging, traditional aging. And now, even if we are a very old estate, we want to create, to bring innovation. We are still looking forward to new things and adapt all the time. And we decided during the COVID, we got rid of one plot, actually this one here, and we did some holes to understand the soil. And we decided we wanted to have a white wine because we only speak about red. But there is something which is magical, is this, the 45th parallel north. This magical line is a unique balanced line. We often say that on this line, you can produce red wine and white wine, very balanced. So we taste different wines, different single varietals, and we decided to plant grape varietals that are along this magical line. So Cruse-Hermitage, Piemonte in Italy. So we planted Viognier, Roussanne, Marsanne, and Vermentino. 4 varietals that are not allowed in Bordeaux. So we will be Vin de France, but sorry for my French, we don't mind. Because I think we will have great results, and it was the first vintage already. So now, just for the case, in Bordeaux, we produce wine, and we sell it differently from any other producer in the world. So we have the estate, the chateau, which will sell the wine to the negociants. They are all located in Bordeaux, okay? And through brokers, okay? The negociants, we have different ones. Some are specialized in the US. Some are specialized in China, in restaurants. Some are specialized in supermarkets. Some are specialized in airlines. Some are specialized in duty-free and retailers, etc. So we have, my role is to understand the profile. Some are big with a lot of salespeople. Some are smaller companies, but with very special niche. And we work with them very strongly. They are all located in Bordeaux, but they travel, of course, all around the world. And to find the best importers, distributors, but there is no exclusivity. So all the wines that you are tasting now, I mean, it's not an obligation, but there is no exclusivity. So we sell it to the negotiant, they sell, and when they buy it, they sell it wherever they want, okay? Through, of course, the different kind of channel we want. And of course, based on the balance we want to get for each brand, of course, the ideal would be to not be dependent to any wine market. So to have almost 33% in Europe, 33% in America, and 33% in Asia. This would be the ideal for us in order to have the balanced distribution and making sure that we are not dependent from any country. And it's true that, as you can see, thanks to this Place de Bordeaux is the brokers and the negotiants, we can sell our production in more than between 70 to 90 different countries based on the different brands, okay? So I hope in timing I'm okay. But just before we move to the tasting, these are the 3 chateaux for the case. One is very related to the history. One is like the golden jewel of Saint-Estèphe. One is very modern. And of course, we'll be delighted, as I mentioned to you, to welcome you to visit us. Only with the 2 families. You have the 3 labels, so 3 different labels, clearly, with the historical one. Well, I think it reflects pretty well the atmosphere that I described to you with the pictures. And we invite you, of course, to follow us and to have a look on our social media, even if we have to develop this, of course. And as one of our great French chefs said, to double happiness, you must share it. I think it's great. I think it's great to share this, to introduce, thanks to Paul Bocuse, to introduce the tasting. So from your left, you will have Chateau Pédesclos, all right? So as we write from left to right, we start from left, right? Left is Chateau Pédesclos from Pauillac. In the middle is Chateau Lafon-Rocher from Saint-Estèphe. And on the right, at the far end right, it's Chateau d'Isson from Margaux. The 3 wines are from 2016 vintage, okay? As you can see, the blend will be kind of different, okay? It's not gonna be the same proportion. Here you have still majority of Cabernet, but I would say almost a 50%. Whereas for Lafon-Rocher, which is in the middle, you will have 67%, okay? And whereas for the last one, Chateau d'Isson, it's 64%. So it's always a majority of Cabernet. As you can see, the harvest usually lasts 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, 3 weeks, let's say that. And sometimes it's all the harvest is done full in September, sometimes full in October, sometimes, most of the time, end of September and beginning of October, okay? So not too much oak. Well, I hope I'll let you taste the wine. I'm sure you will have different personality, what is great in this horizontal tasting is that it's more or less the same climatical conditions. Now you only have in your glass the impact of the soil, the terroir, and of course a little bit of the winemaking, because we have different dedicated team, technical team. So there is no right or wrong answer, as you know. Everybody has different taste. So personally, I love them all. So but I'm not the most objective in this room anyway. But and if you have, of course, any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you for your attention. Yes.
I have two questions. The first one is, so a few years ago, the CFV and INAO agreed to have more new grape varieties for Bordeaux. Is the family open to use it, or is it not allowed in a Cru Classé level? And the second one is the family planning to buy some chateaux from the right bank?
Okay, two good questions. So the first one, right now, it's true that every year we are looking and checking for the new grapes. It's true that on the right bank, the Merlot, we love Merlot. Don't make me wrong, we love Merlot. Merlot in the wine will bring the flesh and the charming notes. We love Merlot, but it's true that it's becoming a very challenging grape with the heat. It's usually high in alcohol, and we are looking for balanced wine. So it's true that when you have a suitable terroir, people will start on the right bank and on the left bank, perhaps, if they can, to switch from Merlot to Cabernet Franc, for instance. We are not at the present time open to additional external grapes, so we'll still remain on the 5. So you see Chateau Lafon Rocher and Chateau Pédesclos, they have 4 out of the 6, and Chateau d'Isson has 5 out of the 6. Not in this blend, but so we will always keep looking at the best things. We have some experimental things, and there are some chateaux in Bordeaux that are like conservatories, where they are also checking and keeping track of the new grapes or other grapes produced in Portugal or in Spain or whatever, in Italy, to check and to see if it could match with us, with the soil. So, but for the moment, we are not going to enlarge the grape varietals for the reds. And to go back to your question, nothing is impossible, but to be honest, right now, it's already quite a lot of big estates, good production. Now we keep the focus on it's 240 hectares in total. So it's and the right bank, why not? Because the family actually, wife is originally from the right bank, but Jackie Lorenzetti likes Cabernet Sauvignon, so at the beginning they really started with the left bank. But again, we love right bank. If there is something great on a great project on the right bank, why not? And another great project, I don't know, in Italy, in Provence, why not? You know, nothing is impossible. But today, I think we have a good challenge already. And yes, to go back to what Raphael was mentioning, we decided this challenge with the young generation, because I think, to be honest, I spoke with a lot of. Actually, I went to Chile, as Raphael mentioned. I used to live in Chile, and I went there for Christmas. And I spoke with friends in wineries. I spoke with friends in wineries in California. Actually, there is a great movie from California wineries that has been done. I just came back from the UK, talking to the distributors, the main distributors in the UK. And also, everybody is facing the same challenge. How to speak, how to address the new generation with wine. Because sometimes wine is, in the mind, I'm making generalities, but is often considered to be the tradition, what the parents, the grandparents were drinking. Why not tasting something else? But I hope in the limited time that I had, I hope that wine is not only an alcoholic beverage, it's also a lot of tradition, a lot of history, a lot of passion, a lot of challenges. and we try to and also a great conviviality. I don't know if we can say that in English, but a great friendly hook for to gather people and not get people individual. Yes.
I have a question in terms of how you set the prices for the bottles of wine.
Yes, it's a good question. It's a complex question, but it's a very good question. In fact, of course, we travel a lot. Now we have also all the tools from internet, and we sell. I didn't mention that, and thank you for this question. But we usually, for the Grand Cru Classé, we sell our wines with a special system called en primeur. So en primeur, it means that we just harvested the wine, the 2024 harvest in September and October, right? We did the vinification, the beginning of the aging, and in 1 month, just 1 month from now, we'll welcome in Bordeaux all the main buyers from all around the world. Everybody will come, taste the wine from the barrels, but already blended, okay? So the wine is already finally blended. They will taste the wine, we'll get, during 1 week, intense week, we'll get their results, their impression. Of course, the journalists are coming too. They put some scores, but we also have some feedbacks with some wish lists from different importers and distributors from all around the world, Asia, US, Africa, whatever, all the country, Europe, of course. And we will gather all this information. We know also the trends of our market with different vintages. And we, the idea is to also try to compare the current vintage with some previous one, even if they are all different. But you always have some similarities, and it's always the first question that people will ask. What would you compare this vintage with? And also, again, there is no magic like every other business. It's the law of offer and demand. So, of course, we have all this. If you have tension in your, if the demand is higher than the offering, of course, the price will increase. And in fact, through the system of the Place de Bordeaux, in fact, there is some exchange of wine. Sometimes people will buy it on primeur, and normally there is a promise. Normally, when you buy on primeur, you advance the payment, but normally the wine should increase in price in the coming years. So, so that's the great opportunity to buy the wine at the right timing. So, but through the Place de Bordeaux, yes, you have a lot of exchange. And the great thing with wine, it's not a perishable good. So this is also something very important. And the great thing, it's not only Bordeaux, it's all the wines from the world. But it's great because, of course, when you think about Bordeaux now, you think about drinking wine old, with 10 years old, all right? It's true that after 10 years, usually the wines are becoming more integrated, the tannins, the oak, and everything. But today, with the technology and the knowledge, the know-how of the technical teams in the cellar, and the technical and the technology also using, you can see that now if you try some 2022, which is the very young, recent, amazing vintage that has just been bottled last year, it's already approachable to drink now. So of course, because it was also one of the challenge for the young generation. Very often they were asking, okay, I bought this bottle, but usually on the market, in supermarket, in retailers, in restaurants, you can find only young vintages. You say, if you have to read and you say, you need to wait 10 years before drinking the wine, come on, forget it. Nobody has, less and less people have wine storage cellars. So now we have improved also to make sure that our wines can be approachable younger. And also, I didn't speak about that today, but we have second wines that are usually using young vines, because young vines are less complex, and we are playing with that to attract also with better pricing, usually more attractive pricing, and perhaps a little bit less, of course, a little bit less complexity in the blend and in the taste. So, but to go back to your question, it's a combination of everything coming from the price that we have on each market of the world, the main markets, the stock, the level of stock in Bordeaux, at the winery, at the negotiations, and of course within the distributors all around the world. What else? And of course, yes, the feedbacks from in terms of quality from the press and from the distributors. I don't know if I answer your questions. But
Yes, you did. So the wine on the left, what would this sell for as a bottle? Just for
the
perspective.
wine, most of the time. If you look at these, I'm just going to put the bottles like this, right? So from these two actually are more or less on the same price range. Okay, so usually today it might be around $50, 50 euro a bottle of wine, 50 to 60 depending on the stores. Whereas this one, the last one on your right, would be around 80. You're welcome. Yes.
In terms of sales and distribution, do distributors hinder or do they enhance your capabilities of reaching certain markets?
Sorry, can you repeat?
In terms of sales and distribution,
Yes.
do distributors, the people that sell your wines in restaurants and shops, do they hinder or do they enhance, make it easier for you to sell the wine?
There is one word I don't know. Sorry.
Do they,
they what?
they make it more difficult or easier to sell the wine?
But it's easier because, in fact, the thing is that we are, thanks to that, dealing with experts. So, of course, the idea, thanks to this system, the previous system that I showed, this system, in fact, allows you, it's not working, but allows you to have a great spread of distribution all around the world, but also having some of the best experts. So, of course, there is strengths and weakness to every system, of course. But by having this, what we call the open market, it's an open competition. So it's true that it's challenging for everybody. But after, it's to go back to the question of Mr. here. In fact, the more you have wine available and the more tension you have, the higher the value of the wine will increase. So, but having, in fact, at the end, my role is to first sell the wine in Bordeaux to the negotiants, and then accompany them abroad, all around the world, to promote the wine. It can be with retail stores, it can be with sommelier, but it can be sommelier in a great Michelin star restaurant, but also in a little bistro, great place with great wine lovers. So, for instance, in Switzerland here, I will be working with different distributors, and each time I'm coming, I will focus perhaps this time on the distributors selling more to private customers, or next time to restaurants. So each time I'm coming, I adapt with, I accompany the right channel. So I don't know if I answer exactly your question, but
Yes, thank you.
I don't know. Sorry about that.
I have another question. So I understand that with climate change, that the wine regions are starting to change in the world, and so like maybe in England now, because of the temperature changes, England may become a producer. Is your company, are you starting to look at other places to grow wine as climate changes or not?
No, but of course it's great, and we hear it will be perhaps the next question for the next challenge about Champagne, because of course we can hear that, yeah, clearly it will be great location, and it's already great location in the south of England to produce amazing sparkling wines. So, but yes, it's true that, but we are still convinced that again, this 45th parallel is a magical line, because now it's just a way to find, to adapt all the time. So, to be honest, we have been, again, as I mentioned, since 2000, a lot of warm summer, but we have had also a lot of water, a lot of rain in the past year. let's take the example of 2024, last year. A lot of rain, too much. And so it's great at the beginning, but at the end, it's bringing what we call the mildew pressure. So it's very challenging for when you run a vineyard organically, because even if the rules of organic are not the same in Europe, in US, and in China, for instance, but it's very challenging. So we have to adapt all the time, and the mildew, for instance, this kind of pressure, every year we say, wow, we broke the records, but the year after it's another breaking records. And if you look at what is great with the human adapting every year, if you look at, it's not too far away, 2003 harvest was probably, it was a big, huge heat waves in France. Fortunately, a lot of people died. It was a nightmare. If you look at the vines, at the end, just before the harvest, the vines had no leaves. And some of the winemakers were calling the old guys and saying, what should I do? And the guy said, I don't care, I'm retiring. So, in fact, but when you see today, since in 22, 18 was very extremely hot, and you could see the vines with the leaves that are protecting the grapes until the end of October. If you were driving around in Bordeaux, so the resilience of the vineyard, but it's also a question of the work on the pruning, on a lot of work, a lot of different things. It's not only one thing, of course, but we try, we test something. Sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. The yield, we didn't speak about that today, but the yield, it's very challenging to have it consistent. In 2016, if I'm saying that everybody will do it again, it's because first you have quality. Everything from day one to the end is amazing, but at the end you also have great yield and great, so which means good volume. So good way to make the proper selection. But sometimes you have 30 hectoliters per hectare. In 2016, we had almost more than 50. It's limited to 55, but we had 50, in some cases 52. But in the last 2 years, some estates had 28 hectoliters. So can you imagine? It's in terms of ratio for cost of producing wine, it's not the same. But at the end, the only goal is to make quality. The most challenging vintage, for instance, for us, the vintage which was the most challenging was 2013 in Bordeaux. And 2013, if you try some of them, you will hopefully you will recognize the estate. It will be a little bit less dense, less volume, less concentration, but you will have quality. Why? Because people, the people who can, they will make huge selection to make sure that the consumer, because the consumer in New York, in Tokyo, in Bordeaux, in Paris, in London, whatever, sorry, he doesn't care about the vintage. He wants to just enjoy a great bottle of wine and making sure that the money he paid for, he has the quality in front of it, and he's having fun. So, but 2013 was challenging vintage because we had a lot of rain during the harvest, and we made huge selection. So it's probably the vintage that cost us the most to produce, but also the cheapest one we sold it. Yes.
What's the size of the organization? How many employees within the three?
It depends on each, because each estate has a dedicated team, as I mentioned. So it's more or less between 30 people per estate in the three that you have seen. So after, it's mainly people from the field, but let's say it's mainly in the vineyard. Most of the time, it's in the vineyard. Running the vineyard organically, we have identified that it's probably around 30% more additional cost. And of course, you won't find this 30% additional cost in the price of the bottle of wine on the shelf. So it's again, it's a conviction and a duty. According to Cruse-Lorenzetti, it's a duty. He wants to do it of course, for the quality. Number one, it's very important because we did some. I passed a little bit quickly, but we did some experimentation since 2012, doing it step by step. blind tasting, because if you don't do it blind, it's not relevant, it's not objective. So we had on the same piece of land, same vineyard, same characteristic, same grape varietals, conventional, organic, and biodynamic. We tried them for a few years in a row. And for us, I'm not criticizing all the other options because I think everything is interesting. But for us, what was working the best in terms of quality was organic. It doesn't mean that biodynamic, there is nothing interesting to take. We are using some of the practices of biodynamic for every vineyard. But it's just that we take what we think is the best. Yes, to go back to your question, the number of people, we need to have dedicated people, because when you have a rain, you need to anticipate to do the treatment, organic treatment, before the rain and after the rain. And this means that first you need to be very proactive, in order to anticipate the rain, and reactive straight after to avoid the disease to develop. Yes.
In terms of marketing, does it change anything to have a biodynamic or organic vineyard?
So just before I answer your question, the thing is, what is challenging to us is the chain. We have a very long chain, distribution chain. So when I'm saying to my partners, negotiants, the wine merchants in Bordeaux, when I'm telling them, yes, great, we are organic this year, it's great, but how can I make sure that the people, the consumer, again, anywhere in the southern part of in Tessin in Switzerland, will know that I'm organic? So I need to communicate, and it's true that the communication today is key, because it's important. There is the as we say in French, le savoir-faire, the know-how, and the faire savoir, which means the way to promote it. So after, of course, thanks to the social media, that's why we hired now somebody in our team to develop the social media, because this is the greatest way to address all the part of the consumers that are interested, young, middle-aged, older, professional, not professional. We have to deliver messages on each of our platform, each our social media, to say what we are doing and what we are going to develop. I think you will probably have a look to our platforms. I think that we need to highlight the gesture, because we think about wine, but all the work that has been done in the vineyard, it's amazing. The pruning is, we don't speak about it enough, but the people who are doing the pruning, it's amazing, and very. You plant. Let's say that this is a plot. You plant everything at the same time with the same genetic, and you come 5 years later, and you have some vines just next to each other. One which is having fun and offering beautiful fruit, and the other one which is about to die. So the people working in the vineyard, they have to identify each vine tree as a human. I mean, as a different human. So, person, I don't know how to say it, but different tree, and adapt the pruning based on the look and feel. So it's a great challenge, but we try to do it as best as possible. So that's why communication today is critical and is mandatory to improve and probably to address the younger generation.
I've seen that you sell magnums. Are you successful in sales with those, or is that just kind of an offering that you provide, or do you mainly just focus on the regular bottles?
The magnums? Yeah, it's a good question. So also, I told you that we are selling our wines on primeur. So the great thing is, let's say that this table here is an importer from New York, and he has some private clients that loves big formats because, of course, today, instead of drinking wines from a bottle of wine, we should have a bigger format because the bigger format is the slowest, the aging is happening into the bottle. So the same wine, if you try 2016 Lafon Rocher now with a little bit of age in the bottle, if you compare the taste of half a bottle and what we call, for instance, an Imperial, which is like 6 liters, 8 bottles of wine, same year, but of course, if I pour the 3 different content in your glass, you will have different wine, and of course, normally, the bigger content you have, the best it is. So the slowest, because the slowest aging you have. So when this team from New York is buying the wine on Primeur, the great thing in buying on Primeur is that they can say, I want to buy my 20 cases that I buy every year, okay? But this year, out of the 20 cases, I want 10 cases normal bottle, and the rest would be half in Magnum, another half in double Magnum, etc., etc. So like that, and of course we produce a little bit more because after the big format, it's always great for events, auctions, things like that, and also just sharing with good friends because sometimes when you have great friends at home, you open a lot of wine, but if you have a big bottle, it's good too, no?
To add on to the previous marketing question, are there other specific marketing strategies you guys use besides social media for people to actually visit the chateau and do wine tasting? And then what would you say is like the main customer base that visits the chateau?
Oh, yes, it's a good question because also I think that Bordeaux was a little bit late, I'm talking globally speaking, in what we call wine tourism, œnotourisme, wine tourism, we say in French, œnotourisme. I think that clearly countries such as, the US with California and was very dynamic, very great pioneer. So we were a little bit late, but it's true that some of the chateaus, people were living, if you look at Château d'Isson, you know, the very middle-aged chateau, the family was living there, still living there, but so they didn't want to have people like necessarily walking around during the day when they had their cup of tea. I'm exaggerating, but so things have changed because we want to show that that's the magic of Bordeaux. If you come, everybody has an old-fashioned, old idea of what Bordeaux is. But if you come, some of the wineries, yes, are producing wine for 900 years. Some are brand new, but it's not because you have such amount of history that the competition is getting stronger every year, every day, and it's great for the consumer. It's great, and so we need to make sure that we are not sleeping and that we are moving. So, and we have to also show part of the beauty is also to have the luck to have such great chateaus with full of history and anecdote. I mean, I summarized in an hour and 30 minutes, but we could speak about that for hours and days. But that's the magic of it. So it's all the stories behind, and this to do that. Yes, we have developed wine tourism. So we have opened the gate of each chateau, and each chateau will have different kind of experience. Because what is important today in every business, okay, it can be clothes, where everything, tourism, everything is hospitality, is experience. To have the consumer having the best experience possible. So, of course, we'll adapt the experience. For instance, if you at Château d'Isson, the old one, we have the best tasting is, of course, you do the tour of the vineyard. You can do it also in cycling if the conditions allows it. But after you can have like the family tasting where you are tasting a lot of back vintages, and you can see the progression. You can see how the wine evolved. And inside the chateau normally was close to the public. It was where the family was living, and you can feel still the soul inside when you go inside. So we're not having them tasting in a cold tasting room in the office. No, it's inside the chateau to make for instance, I'm going back to the Primeur. all our customers are coming from all around the world, again, in 1 month from now. At the beginning, 10 years ago, they were tasting in the office. Now, we want them to sit down, if they want. If they are in the hurry, they can taste quickly. But to sit down, feel the place, and taste the wine. I mean, I'm sure it happens to all of you. You go sometimes in some cellars with the barrels, with the smell, this very special smell. You taste the wine with the barrels, the guy, and the candle, and everything. You say, "Oh my God, it's so great! I love it." You buy 10 kgs, and you go back home, and you say, "Oh my God, is it the same wine?" But at the end, it's the magic. So we want to create. I'm not saying that you will have this experience with our wines, but hopefully not. But this we want to create the magic, and that people will remember. Because seeing barrels, I mean, you see barrels everywhere. So we want to create unique experience for every consumer who's coming. So communication, to go back to, and marketing. Yes, number one, wine tourism, the social media, but also doing some events, very special events abroad, all around. Let's take the example of, I'm taking the story about Aliénor of Aquitaine. The wedding was on May 18th of 1152. What we are doing, not every year, once every 3 or 4 years, we do every May 18th a special event in London to celebrate this anniversary with big formats, to go back to your question, with big formats and with most of our most valuable clients. We did it in the Westminster Abbey, in the Cellar Monk, so very unique, in the Kensington Palace. We did some great events like that to also have a coherent message. We will not do this kind of event for Pédesclos, you know. So Pédesclos, which is very modern, will use something slightly more modern with modern cuisine, perhaps playing with different rules. So we adapt. You know, we have some people coming. I mean, we want to develop the conviviality and the friendship, and also showing that it's still family owned. Because even if all these wines have different personality, different flavors, different aromatic flavors, different structure, but at the end, it's the same family. I love it because, and this is even if Cruse-Lorenzetti lives in Paris, because he has many activities, but he comes very often. He's very involved in Bordeaux, so he comes every month. He's coming next week. He's very involved, and he wants that people will have great experience in the chateau. So, but not everybody can go in Bordeaux. So, when we travel, we try to have something coherent in terms of messages and promotion. Sorry. Yeah.
So the challenge for students is to propose a new approach to creatively engage younger generation with Bordeaux wine culture, right?
Yeah.
In order for us to propose a new approach, could you please share what you have tried already and it didn't work, or you're not particularly happy with the results from your point of view? Thank you.
Thank you for this good question you want to answer, Raphael. No, but I think what we tried, but we need to develop it is again, I'm going back to the social media because it seems to be the best way to communicate. Again, I don't know if you have seen, there is one movie, a small, not movie, video, done by California wineries. It's available on YouTube and everything. It's very well made because it shows that, yes, today, even we were talking about the long chain, but in California, and perhaps some of you are coming from California, so interrupt me if I'm saying something wrong, but the chain is shorter. They sell a lot to direct consumer straight from the winery, which is with clubs and everything. So, but they also, in this video, they were showing that they are also facing the same challenge that we have, because in fact, I'm not sorry, don't take it, don't be offended on that, but all of us, we are on our phone, and when you see your kids and everything, so at the end we stay a little bit more individual. So and the wine You see that in this video, and it's very beautifully presented. Everybody's cheers and gathering and developing the connection, the relationship with friends, with family. So it's always a friendly atmosphere. After, there is this new trend of non-alcoholic wine. Why not? I mean, we tried some. No comment on that. But no, I'm sure there will be one day some good, I'm sure. But it's already the case with sparkling and non-alcoholic sparkling. It was the case with non-alcoholic beer. At the beginning, it was, and now it's becoming better. So there are all these new trends. But why not? If people start tasting non-alcoholic red wine, I prefer that than people drinking beer or spirits. Again, nothing wrong with that. But so to go back to your question, we tried different things, but for the young, it's mainly with the using some how do you say, some influencers. But nowadays we tasted it mainly in France, and in France, you know that we love to create complexity. So in France, it's probably the only country in the world where we cannot do advertising on wine. So it's very challenging. There is a special law, so it's good for the consumer. Okay, but this is the only country. So every time we want to promote and make advertising on our wine, we should almost have a different strategy for France than the rest of the world. And in France, we love to no comparison with sports or rugby, but we like to win the game home. Double the price. So we have challenges like this, and to adapt to the different rules of communication in any part of the world. And of course, a consumer in China, in US, in UK, France, whatever, will not have the same hook. So, but that's the great thing, is that you have to play with different platforms, but it's getting very complex. TikTok, let's take the example of TikTok. TikTok is great, why not? But you have to feed a lot in order to exist. You have to feed, I mean, I'm not an expert, but you have to feed and have a lot of video. It can be short video, but you have to be careful on what you say, because, of course, the reaction can be very impulsive and sometimes very bad. And you have to think 200 times before you post, because something that for you is nothing wrong, you can get a lot of tough feedbacks, and it can damage your brand. So we have to be careful, because, again, we've been making wine for a few years. We have to be careful in what we are publishing too. It has to be coherent and not declaring new wars. I don't know if I answer your question too.
You have just mentioned as well, like market placement, particularly regarding restaurants. Being in hospitality, particularly passionate about lodging industry, does the brand make activations with hotels, or does the brand reach out directly to hotels? Or do you trust your negotiants and you go through them believing that they will be the ones being able to actually place your wine in the right hotels?
Thank you for this question. It's 3 levels. Number 1, you have the special connection because we travel a lot. So I don't know. Number 1, you have the chains. Okay, so hotel chains. So this is usually, I'm making again generalities, but usually it's tenders. So the tenders to Accor, for instance, if they want to select their wines, they will send a tender, an official tender. The negotiants will get it. After we propose, based on the price point, the appellation, sometimes the color of the wine, etc., we propose to the negotiants, and the negotiants make the offering, and who's the best for matching all this mix, and of course the quality of the wine will win, and the price. So this is for the chains. Then, of course, you have the relationship you have in different hotels, because you want to make sure that you are in the Grand Hyatt in Hong Kong, etc., or the Raffles in Singapore. So you have all these great hotel, when I go to visit, we try to organize some events, and we try also to create the connection to have your wine. But even if I do the direct connection with the raffles, for instance, in Singapore, I will, if there is a connection and the FMB is interested to buy, I will deliver the thing to the one negotiant that I know who is specialized in Singapore, or I will ask the raffle guy, okay, with who are you working in Bordeaux? He will tell me if the same guys as the wine will connect, and everything will be, because we are not expert in logistics and you are all in hospitality. The most important thing is the quality of service, and the quality of service today we have some negotiations that are able for restaurants today. The challenge is very few restaurants have capability to have some stock of wines, cases and cases of stock. So sometimes they have a beautiful wine list, but sometimes they have one bottle of the wine on in the cellar. So we have some negotiations that are able, in some countries, to deliver one bottle of Petrus, one bottle of Lafite 82 in less than a day, if you pass the order by the end of before 5 p.m. today, in Paris, in whatever, and they have all that in the US too. Well, in some countries where the logistics is more challenging, but if it's not 24 hours, it will be 48 or 72 hours. But this service is very costly and is very specific, very dedicated to the top restaurants, and that's why the negotiations, some are specialized on premise for the restaurants and for hotels, because hotels is the same story. Usually they don't want, and less people want to take any risk, so they don't want to carry a very huge inventory. So I mean, the logistic, I'm sure you all hear that every day. It's the most critical challenge for all of us. Again, we have to freight, to ship our wines in good conditions, also in a reefer container and everything, and making sure that but at the end we realize that our wines usually can travel pretty well, and it's pretty resistant, because sometimes it goes 2 times the worldwide tour, and at the end you open it in I don't know, in Paris, in Lausanne, and you open the wine, you don't know what the trip he has done, but sometimes he has done again 2 times the worldwide tour, and you open it and you have pleasure. That's the most important. But so to go back to your question, yeah, you have a direct approach, but even if I have a direct approach with you and you are F&B in Singapore, we will put somebody from the négoce into it in order to guarantee the best service possible, logistic wise, and the tenders and what else. I think that's pretty much. I had the third point, but I don't know. It will come back. No, but it's very important, yes, to be also present in the hotels. But after the rotation, voilà, it's when you reference a wine. Voilà, when you are out of stock, if somebody comes and presents something at the same price point, you lose the spot. So the most important, the truth is on the field. So you need to make sure that the negotiations you're putting in online, I mean in the business, to make sure that he will do the proper follow-up, to make sure that when the wine is out of stock in your place, that you don't pick somebody else. Because alternative, a lot, the world, again, I'm sure some of you are producing wine or from producing countries, wine-producing countries. It's great because for the consumer, before we were drinking, our parents and grandparents, they were drinking always the same wine, sometimes always the same label. Very often we hear that from the young generation. They say, "Oh, my father was always drinking this wine on a weekend, always." Or my grandparents, and they have the label is stick in your head forever. But today, everybody, the consumer is a zapper. Before you were buying only Nike shoes. If you are on Nike, you want to buy your Nike shoes, and you have advertising on New Balance, and you click, and you're out. So the possibility to disconnect and to develop loyalty, even in wine, in every business, but in wine too, is very tough. Now you have some in online. I mean, the guys who are selling wine online, if you put Chateau d'Isson Margaux, you are sure that you will get some information from another Margaux that they have to promotion on the stock they have and they want to get rid of. So you are about to buy Chateau d'Isson and you have a big promotion, lightning, and it's in Margaux, more or less the same price point, Grand Cru, but with a special price, and you go away.
Hi there. So when I ask, you have talked about like the same label. Our grandfather always like wants to drink the same label. I think it's very normal for me. So may I ask? I think the selling chain you have mentioned before it's very long. So how can you to keep the like customer loyalty? Like if he want to choose this brand, he think it's great. How can you like ensure or he will buy this like this wine or from this vineyard again? So is there any loyalty program or some marketing strategy like that? Yeah.
It's a good question. So first, to develop loyalty, I mean, to maintain loyalty or to develop loyalty, our best number one is to try to produce wine that when you are blind, you almost feel you know where you are. So when you are addicted to Lafon-Rocher, addicted is not the right word, sorry. When you are in love with Chateau Lafon-Rocher wine, when you buy it every year, you have to recognize your wine, okay? Number one. And if possible, making even better wine the next year, showing that you continue your learning process and to improve, okay? So and you know how to face the new challenge from climate change and everything that we spoke about. So this is number one for loyalty, making sure that you continue to produce quality even on tough vintages. Number one, and even sacrificing sometimes the margin. Okay, you know that because you don't have to think short term. For Jackie Lorenzetti, with all the business, real estate, rugby, and everything, he realized that wine, it's a very long-term process. So when you plant the vine, you will get the best fruit in 10, 20, 30 years. So it's a long-time process. So you don't have to be impatient when you want to invest in a winery. And we often say that to become a millionaire, you have to be first a billionaire. So just to give you an idea. But we're not here to speak about that. But to say when you do the loyalty, yes, the other idea is to develop it. So now we are introducing, but it's quite new to us, clubs. So of course, the idea is not necessarily to sell wine because you understood that we are not selling wine directly except for people that are coming to visit our estates. Because when they come to visit, I did that once in a great chateau. I won't give any names, but I visited the winery. I was wow all the time. And at the end, you taste the wine, you say, wow, but can I buy it? No. Okay. So frustration at 200%, horrible. So at the end, it's screw the experience, it's screw everything. So okay, luxury, blah, blah, blah. But for this, of course, we offer wine to sell if you come at the winery, but it will be only with pricing related to the market to respect our distributions. Number one. Number two is also, but you have another guarantee is that the wine that you will be buying at the winery will have not traveled anywhere and will have been kept in optimal conditions for all its life. And to go back to your question, if you come to the winery and you are born or you have a baby boy born in 2005, you can buy a 2005 bottle of wine of 6 liters for his future wedding or anniversary of 18 years old or whatever. So this is something unique, again, going back to the experience. And the club, the idea will not be to sell wine to them because, again, we have a special system, but to create for them unique experience. For instance, we of course, we track down where people are from. And if I'm traveling to Japan and I'm going to Tokyo and Kyoto, okay, I will search, send an invitation to these guys that are belonging to the club, and we will propose a unique dinner in Kyoto, in Tokyo, with great, amazing food pairing, not with French food, but with local food, and trying to find some great pairings, and of course bringing some old stuff and wines that are not necessarily available on the market. Because that's the magic of Bordeaux. Again, you have possibility to find some 2000, some wines from the 80s, sometimes from the 70s. I mean, just quick story, but one customer from Germany sent me 2 bottles of 1922 Chateau d'Isson, 2 bottles, and he shipped it to us. He said, I'm coming with some customers. I would like to taste it with you and the owner. So it's a bottle which have a century-old wine. And to be honest, we opened one. We still have one at the estate because the owner was not there, so I want to repeat this opportunity. We did it blind for the rest of the clients, but the wine, 1 century old, well, it's not always the case, but it was amazing. It was beautiful. It was like rose petal in the nose. It was you wanted to perfume with the wine. It was outstanding. And normally this kind of wine could die very quickly, but no, it was the more it was breathing, opening up, and delivering a great message after 100 years old. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. That's the magic of wine too. And sometimes you have bad experience too. It's part of the game. It's a risky game. So, ready for the challenge or?
Hello? Okay. Hello. Thank you all so much for asking so many questions. So now the delegates are going to have some time to work on the Cruse-Lorenzetti challenge. And then if you can kind of walk around and answer any other questions you may have, you're free to drink the wine, eat the bread, and work on the challenge and take what you've just learned here. Thank you.
Thank you.